reason we're doing Tchaik-5 is because it's not done much in Australia, unfortunately, and it's one of the most performed symphony, obviously, and it's also very passionate. It's sad, but it's quite passionate, and because we have a young orchestra, I feel like that's a very good opportunity for the orchestra to show that kind of emotion, a raw emotion, but as an ensemble.
I think with the young musicians, I think a narrative is very important, and obviously all symphonies have some sort of story behind, or the composer's trying to illustrate a specific arc of a character or whatever. But I think with Tchaikvosky, it's super clear. I don't know, for me personally, I think you have the big narrative with the 4 movements, and then you have like the smaller narratives within the movements. And it's so clear like where where it's going, basically. There's no real like surprises, or it all kind of makes sense. So for example, like you don't just listen to the second movement because it's gorgeous or whatnot, but you want to listen to the second movement in the context of the first movement. You know what I mean? And it just makes that horn solo just like even more beautiful because of how dark the first movement is, and then how there's so much light and hope in the second movement. You know? So I think it's really important for this program, especially how we're going to try and like convey a very clear narrative.
Yeah, I agree, and I think of it as an old man saying a tale, as it was composed for Tchaikovsky's mentor, and that the whole main theme coming back in every movement in some sort of form. It just represents that old man telling tales, anecdotes within those movements, which is pretty cool. And Egmont as well, with the play, it's the same thing. They're all very kind of dark and bittersweet taste to it, and they're all, both Egmont and Tchaik-5 are very passionate. I believe it's even Beethoven, there can be quite a lot of passion behind it and a lot of grit and anger, but that goes towards something major, which happens in this piece as well as in Egmont. So I think it's, as you said, it's a very good narrative to explore and develop that passionate side of the orchestra and the lush sound.
I think, I mean, just on that, I think like especially musicians at this kind of like level in their training or whatever, like I think trying to ignite that passion by using these works, it's like, I think it comes at a perfect time because you kind of open their eyes up to like this is what it takes to play a piece like this. And as you said, like this symphony is incredibly, it's huge. It's huge in the grand scheme of all of these big works, and so I think it serves a great purpose for these young musicians. To truly bring out, these emotions that they might not have known they had. So
I agree.
I think it's incredibly significant, and I'm glad we chose it.
Yeah. I think it's a very, very wholesome program with a lot of passion. With Beethoven having a very kind of Germanic passion, as well as Tchaikovsky being very romantic kind of passion. But they're all very kind of forward in terms of emotion. Right.
Yeah. They don't like, mess about.
They don't mess about. That's right. That's right.
So this symphony actually goes, significantly back in my life, especially as an orchestral musician. So almost 10 years ago to the day, I started year 7 in my high school at Trinity Grammar School, and it so happened that year was the 100th year as like an established school, and for that centenary gala concert, our musical director, Mr. Philip Pratt, he chose to do Tchaikovsky Symphony 5, and that was honestly, you could say, like the first big romantic symphonic work that I had ever done. And little 12-year-old David, who had not the greatest haircut and was like this tall. Well, you can imagine, like, this didn't really mean much to me back then, but like, I find it so fitting and, quite poetic that, I can look back now and realize like, wow, like I actually go way back with this work, and just to be able to play it and be amongst like all of these musicians. Like Trinity even went to the trouble of getting like alumni and old boys to mix in with the current students, and I thought it was amazing. It was such a great experience, and I think it was pretty lucky that I got to join the school in their centenary year. So fast forward 10 years and like, I have the opportunity to lead something like this with you, and just it's incredible. And I think there's more than just a musical connection to this. It's a real personal thing for me. So yeah, I can't wait. I honestly can't wait. What about you?
Yeah. I encountered classical music quite late, as you know. I encountered it from year 10 and year 11 and 12. The first album I downloaded on my phone on Apple Music. Not sponsorship, but like some. It was a 40 most performed classical pieces.
Yeah.
And Tchaikvosky, exactly. Tchaikvosky 5 was the one of them, as well as Beethoven 5.
Okay.
The first movement is just grabbed my attention, and that was the time I was like, I really want to be part of this.
Right.
And this hit quite close because it was very dark. When I was listening to it, I didn't have any idea what the notation and the music and all that.
Because it was still very new to this.
Yeah.
Scene,
I could barely read sheet music at the time.
Right, there you go.
And I heard it, and I felt this like weight on my shoulder, and I was like, this is so dark and mysterious. But then there are glimpses of hopes throughout, like the whole movement or the whole symphony as well, but especially the first movement. It's got glimpse of hope, and that was just had a moment, and I was like, that was just amazing, and I wanted to hear this live.
Right.
I tried to go whenever there was a major orchestra playing it, but didn't have the time actually to go there, or it wasn't aligned with my timetable. But it was just listening to that recording was amazing. I used to walk to school with Beethoven 5 and Tchaik 5 on my in my earpods, like non-stop, just on repeat.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was just And so it is quite close to me. This move, especially the beginning of the first movement.
So could you say that this was the first kind of influence for you to go into conducting?
Yeah. This was, and Tchaikvosky actually, his ballet work is just amazing, and that was part of the repertoire too. On that playlist of 50 most performed classical music, I believe it was one of the ballets. I think it was the Nutcracker, and the lush sound of the orchestra and like the buoyancy in it. I could imagine the ballet, but just hearing the music.
Right.
It was just amazing. So Tchaikovsky is one of my favorite composers because he writes beautiful melodies with his violin concerto, with his symphonies, with his ballets. The symphonies tend to be quite darker because he was writing from his passion, and he was quite oppressed.
Troubled life.
He was pretty oppressed. So I think the symphonies are quite dark, but in general, his writing is just so romantic in a sense of the melodic line is just so beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, you don't really get close to Tchaikovsky in terms of romanticism. Subjectively.
I agree.
I think Rachmaninoff melodies are close. In some ways, they really try to emulate that romantic style. I don't see Rach as a modern composer, but I think with Tchaikovsky, you just get all of these emotions pouring in at once, and I think it's really nice that we're able to talk about it like this because, having this training, like knowing about this piece of music for so long now, you can see how your perspective changes. It's not just about we have to play this symphony anymore, which was my take in 2013. But now it's like, well, I've just finished a degree, like working with you, and you know, just being surrounded by all of these perspectives, like it's completely different. It's a completely different approach, and that's what I'm super excited about. So should be good fun.
Yeah,
Should be good fun.
it's exciting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for me, I think the whole idea is quite fresh. I think the ability to, you know, give this platform for so many young musicians to collaborate. Like, I really don't like the idea of the musician life being stuck in a practice room. You know what I mean? And I think everything about music and all of these things that we've been talking about rely on the ability to collaborate. And I think, you know, a lot of orchestras have this common objective, but I think with us, like, giving a platform to all of these musicians, whether they're from the con, outside the con, or whatever, I think it allows us to really bring together a group of, you know, young and aspiring musicians. So really, I think this is incredibly exciting and incredibly fresh, and I think this will translate into our performance, our rendition of these amazing works. So if that isn't a selling point, I don't know what is. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I do think our orchestra is quite young, and there are a lot of young and inspiring musicians in the orchestra, but without the support of our audience, our patrons, it wouldn't be possible for us to continue making music with that passion and also learn as an ensemble, but also share that experience as a young musician to be part of a young orchestra that wants to put something like this. So Tchaikvosky 5 and Egmont are big overtaking, but I think our musicians are up to it, very much so. So are you. And I think it will be a great experience for the audience to join us, and they will. I am sure they will enjoy it.
Oh, it's no secret that we're using this program as a big selling point because, you know, for me, like this is music that I would listen to 100%, like over and over and over. And like if this was at a concert, I'd be going, you know. So I think just the program in combination with like the passion that we're, you know, all of these young musicians have plenty of. That is a selling point for the ages.
That's true.
Yeah.